Well, we might not have the highlights, but we do have the stories, and it begins this afternoon at Committee Maximum Prison, where wardens at that prison spent a good part of the morning trying to contain an attempted prison break.
The Deputy Prison Commissioner at the Maximum Prison says a routine inspection for contraband is what sparked the 9:30 events.
Prisoners apparently resisted the inspection, at some point overpowering the wardens. It is during this confusion that some prisoners allegedly attempted to unsuccessfully climb over a 10-meter enclosure in the prison.
Now, 2 wardens were injured in the incident and are receiving treatment at the Kiambu District Hospital. KTN has, however, learned from residents neighboring the prison that there were gunfire sounds in the early morning incident.
This is a claim that the prison officials have vehemently denied. The neighbors also report that this week the prisoners have been restless owing to alleged increased physical abuse and decreased food rations.
Now, the officials of the prison did not comment on this. More than 2,000 SIM cards and over 100 mobile phones were seized in the inspection. Right, and from that attempted prison break-in, Committee Maximum Prison, do let us know what your thoughts are concerning that story. But also remember, the website you need to read for more details of that particular story. It remains to be standardmedia.co.ke. Let's talk about some politics now.
Well, it's about the ODM chairman, aspirant and South Mugirango Member of Parliament, Manson Nyamweya, who has quit the race for chairmanship of the party.
Nyamweya claims that there is a predetermined list of individuals pushed by forces within the Orange Party to assume the party's leadership. He
pointed out a lineup that emerged on Wednesday, claiming the people in the lineup are political beginners and that the forthcoming party election will be a mere rubber stamping of the set list.
Looking from the way the lineup is coming up, there is people who have not been active in the party, and if you look at their profile, suddenly they are shot up. Obviously, there are forces behind such a persons. Like when we talk about the lady standing for Secretary General, I believe most of you don't know her. And therefore, when you try to understand what is exactly behind, who is behind her, you don't see who is behind her, but what's her profile. So when you look the circumstances around, it's like this election, as we go for it, is set. And if it is set, we should not participate in it. What I believe is that the party should belong to all of us, and it's the membership to decide. And if somebody somewhere decides to favor a particular person, then the choice is to leave. But as ODM prepares to go for this election, it's weakening itself. When you look at that list and what it intends to achieve, if you look at it, I don't think it will go anywhere except weaken the party.
Elsewhere, police in Murang'a County raided an illegal alcohol plant in Gatanga area and recovered hundreds of counterfeit alcohol brands. Now, the discovery was made after members of the public reported the incident. The plant was operated in one of the plush community homes in Gulf View Estate in Murang'a County. Now, the commissioner there, Kula Mwache, said they managed to arrest several people who were involved in the production of alcohol and that the owner of the premise managed to escape. Now, Hache appealed to legal manufacturers of alcoholic drinks to heighten their vigilance on counterfeit products sold locally and also urged landlords to be keen on whoever they lease their premises to.
This is the first time we've seen counterfeit good in Murang'a. We want to ask our security officers to be alert. This is a big lesson. We all want to be alert. To ask service providers like Kenya Power. What we've seen here is interesting. There is another parallel line to the Kenya Power line. So has Kenya Power, even if it's a prepaid, Kenya Power should once in a while visit these meters of theirs and see if legal power is consumed or illegal power is consumed. Because what we've seen here, there is illegal power connection, there is illegal water connection, there is a lot, everything here is illegal.
Traders in Ngong, Rongai and Kitengela want the county government of Kajiado to construct modern markets and business centers to help boost their businesses. The traders claim they are currently operating in filthy markets that have poor sewage systems and have been losing clients due to the state of the markets. The traders who spoke as they launched a cleaning program for the markets said the county governments should ensure the markets are conducive for business operations. Kajiado governor who toured the markets said the county is planning to build 3 main market centers at a cost of about 300 million shillings.
I hope you're not running away.
Right, to other matters now, and the National Social Security Fund has been in the news for all the wrong reasons. Of late has been the controversial TASIA project. And lately, one of the board members, who is the outspoken Secretary General of the Central Organization of Trade Unions, that is Francis ATWOLI, was before the parliamentary committee to give his side of the story. And now here is KTN's Patrick Amimo with the very latest of exactly what ATWOLI had to say. We seem to be having a challenge with that connection with Patrick Amimo, but we will get him to you as and when we have that line working properly. Two other matters now. The national officials for the university's academic staff union, UWASU, and the Kenya University Staff Union, KUSU, have expressed optimism to their members that at least some 2.8 billion shillings is going to be released by tomorrow in regard to the controversial 2012 CBA that has the unions since accused the government and university managers for embezzling just about 7.8 billion shillings. Now, addressing news conference this afternoon, the officials stated that a meeting between them and the vice chancellors at the Ministry of Headquarters has seen the VCs admit to having received the money from the Treasury, money which is yet to reach the intended staff.
But in this one, let me warn you, when the vice chancellors are aware that in the event that they do not make full disclosures, I can assure you that on Thursday, together with the parliamentary committee, we shall agree and take one position that the matter be referred to Director of Public Prosecutions. And heads will roll, some of them will be sacked, some of them will be jailed. Because this is graft, pure and simple. Graft that it cannot be tolerated even by the head of state.
An attempt by Maseno University teaching staff to hold a meeting with the administration to discuss salaries turned awry yesterday when a gang of hired goons attempted to block the lecturers from accessing the administration block. The ensuing melee, the staff and students turned on the 10-man gang, forcing them to flee the institution. 3 of them were arrested while 2 were critically injured and are admitted at the Nyanza General Hospital in Kisumu.
The meeting was scheduled to be at around 12 p.m. But because of the hired goons who are having knives, in fact, policemen have been here. They have taken even the exhibit. They have gone with them. So we hope that this matter is under the police investigation, and we hope everything will be okay.
I don't have the exact number, how many there were, but 4 have been arrested by police, and 1 was taken to the hospital. But he's also under the arrest of the police because they entered the university without authority, and they attacked people inside. We don't know who brought them.
Let's revisit that NSSF story we alluded to earlier on. And the 5.2 billion Tasia project has brought a lot of controversy to it, with the project being disowned by two members of the board of the NSSF. That is Jacqueline Mugo, representing employers, and Francis ATWOLI, representing the workers' union. And today, Francis ATWOLI had a chance to say his side of the story as to why he was opposing that. And here now is KTN's Patrick Amimo with the very latest of what exactly Francis ATWOLI said. Patrick?
We just at the National Assembly, where the Public Investments Committee has just had a session with the Quarter Secretary General Francis ATWOLI, who also happens to be the NSF board chair for the Finance and Investment Committee. The parliamentary committee is investigating the controversial Tasia project phase 2, which the Quarter boss said that the 5.03 billion shillings that was meant to develop that part of the project was not agreed. Indeed, ATWOLI has told the committee that there was no budgetary allocation for phase 2 of the housing development project in Tasia. He also told the committee that at no time during his tenure at the NSF board has any transaction been made or investment project been endorsed through circulation of email. And he says if there's any such action, then the officers responsible should take he equated it to an abuse of office, and said the officers responsible should then take responsibility for such a project and answer to it. He says that ATWOLI told the committee that the NSSF did not agree with tenants, about 1,750 tenants of Tasia, on how the infrastructure project will be paid, because he said the NSSF board had agreed that they do a survey to see how much it will cost the fund if they were to put up an infrastructure project on that land, because after the City Council of Nairobi said that the project will not go on without infrastructure. And after the survey, it was found that each tenant at that particular plot will be supposed to pay 650,000 Kenya shillings, which NSSF at the time did not have, and said the matter should rest. And the Tasia phase 2 was now to be taken over as a tenant purchase scheme. So he said, as we talk now, NSF board does not have any budgetary allocation for this particular project, and the matter should stop. And whoever says that maybe tenants at Tasia should not be given their title deeds, he says that's a false allegation. Because we remember last week the managing trustee Richard Langat did say that the fund will hold title deeds to the for the tenants until and unless they pay the 650,000 shillings meant for the infrastructure. So from Parliament, back to the studio, Tunya. I'm Patrick Amimo.
Right, many thanks, Patrick Amimo. And until that committee finalizes that report, it will continue to be a case of he said, she said, but KTN is on top of that. We'll be giving you the details as and when they unfold. Elsewhere, ICC Outreach Coordinator Maria Kamara says the ICC prosecutor should be given time to determine whether or not President Uhuru Kenyatta's case should be dropped. This after Uhuru Kenyatta's defense asked that the ICC drop the case for lack of evidence. Kamara added that the International Criminal Court, after being a court of last resort, is expected to deliver justice, which duly lies in the professional mandate of Fatu Bensouda as the prosecutor.
The lawyers for the victims also thought that by withdrawing the case or terminating it is like giving a green light to what they consider as an obstructive government, a government that had not been forthcoming or cooperating. Judges had asked for another status conference to discuss in details the question of non-compliance on lack of cooperation as presented by the Office of the Prosecutor. So we do not know at this stage when decisions are expected on those subject matters that were discussed in yesterday's state conference.
It's important to state that crimes such as those that happened in 2007 should not be left unpunished, because when states leave those sorts of crimes unpunished, then it undermines the rule of law.
All right, just an update of what's happening in the court this morning. Remember that media houses on December 27th got a reprieve after the Court of Appeal ordered the CCK and the Ministry of Information to reinstate analog broadcasting until February the 6th. That's today, when the Court of Appeal is meant to make a determination on that. Now, lawyer Paul Mwite was speaking earlier on, and will definitely keep an eye on that story and tell you what the courts decide.
Right, and probably just for the sake of our viewers, what the prayer Paul Mwite was making to the court is for an extension of this period, because he says Kenyans are not ready for this move. The move is good, but they are not ready. But as we say, it's up for the courts to decide that.
Well, we take a short commercial break, and when we come back, do you have problems parking in the CBD or anywhere for that matter?
Now that it's 300.
Now, especially now that it's 300 shillings.
Right.
You have an interview that's going to be quite exciting.
Right, I'm going to be talking to a gentleman who's an entrepreneur in this field. We're talking about valet parking in Kenya. I mean, all the
So I drive to town and I just leave some of my keys.
Do all cars qualify for that?
Oh no. Are you trying to insult me? We'll be back after this break. Let me fight with Tunya for a bit. What are you trying to say? Welcome back to KTN News Desk. Before we went on the break, we were talking about digital migration, a story that began last year and reached its rather climax, if you like, on December 27th, when the CCK and the Ministry of Information was ordered to reinstate analog broadcasting until today, when they're back in court. Rita Tinina has been following the proceedings this morning and has the latest for us. Rita?
Well, a very good afternoon to you. We are coming to you live from the Supreme Court building, where in the last 1.5 hours or so, the Court of Appeal began hearing an appeal against the digital migration by 3 media houses. That is the Standard Group, the Nation Media Group, and Royal Media Services. And just before the Court of Appeal, which has a 3-judge bench led by Roslyn Mbuye, went off on a lunch break, Senior Counsel Paul Mwite for the appellants was making his submissions. In those submissions, Paul Mwite saying the appellants have 15 grounds of submission, and he told the court that the appellants are not in any way opposed to digital migration. What they are opposed to is the fact that someone else will be distributing the content that will be generated by the local TV stations. The appellants are also opposed to the fact that new entrants in the broadcast industry have been given licenses to distribute the digital signal. Remember, pay TV channels including Signet, Star Times and Go TV have the license. And Paul Mwite told the court that it was unfair to have the new entrants get the license, ignoring local companies, local media houses that have invested billions of shillings over the years. Paul Mwite also told the court that the appellants are also opposed to the fact that when their content is distributed by a third party without the appellant's consent, permission or compensation in any way, then the TV stations will not be able to guarantee the integrity of what will be aired by the pay TV channels. Before the hearing kicked off proper earlier on in the morning, the appellants, through lawyer Kimani Kirago, had made an application seeking to have additional evidence admitted. They had argued and told the court that the appellants, that is the 3 media houses, had in their possession now a letter allegedly by the CCK, the Communications Commission of Kenya, to Signet, setting out the grounds or conditions for being issued with a license. And they said that in that letter, CCK had told Signet that it must be able to broadcast content from 5 local TV stations. All the respondents in the case, including CCK, Signet and Go TV and Star Times, opposed that application. The court then went on a short break for the judges to deliberate on what submissions had been made. When the judges reconvened, they made their ruling. They rejected that application on 2 grounds. One, that the appellants had not disclosed when they got that letter, and 2, the fact that they said the letter was incomplete. It only has 1 page, and so the judges said they could not establish the author or the authenticity of that letter. So when the court reconvenes this afternoon, Paul Mwite will continue making his submissions. Paul Mwite and other counsel representing the three media houses told the court earlier when the court was setting the ground rules for the hearing that they will require at least 3 hours to make their submissions. So Paul Muita will be continuing this afternoon. He will be assisted by among other lawyers, including Philip Murgo. The court is yet to decide on whether or not the respondents will begin making their submissions this afternoon or whether they will begin doing that tomorrow morning or on Monday. So when the court reconvenes this afternoon, we'll wait to hear whether the respondents then will kick off their submissions tomorrow morning. That is after the appellant's counsel finish their submissions this afternoon, or whether the case then will reconvene on Monday. From here, the Supreme Court, as I mentioned earlier, the judges and senior counsel, all those involved in the case right now on a lunch break, that the case should resume at around 2:15 or 2:30 this afternoon. Back to you in studio.
Well, thank you very much, Rita Tinina. She's staying on that beat, waiting for the determination of the court, which will have crucial implications depending on what they decide. To call farmers now in Kiambu who have now created a joint cooperative that will help them profit more in that business, the county government has formed the special SACCO to target the hundreds of quail keepers in the county. Here's Asha Mulu with the details.
The boom in quail keeping may have affected the profits in that business venture, but quail farmers in Kiambu County are not backing down. More than 700 quail keepers in the county have formed a cooperative aimed at searching for a better market for their produce. The farmers met the county executive member in charge of agriculture and livestock, Monica Waiganjo. Waiganjo said that the county wants to market the quail products churned out by their farmers to other regions in Kenya and beyond.
This is a lucrative business and we got into it, and now we are also experiencing some constraints which are not unique to quail farming. This is something that's common to all agribusinesses.
The farmers have criticized those claiming that the quail business will collapse just like the pyramid schemes did. They say that the venture is lucrative and can be very profitable if it's marketed well.
Hii ni biashara kamili, kama vile waweza kuwa na ng'ombe kwako nyumbani ama busi na diposa uweze kuikuza na kupatia mazao.
Hundreds of quail farmers are now targeting countries outside Kenya that are keen on quail farming. The USA, Japan, China, India, Egypt, Nigeria and South Africa are among the nations globally that have also domesticated the wild bird. Ashamwilu, KTN News Desk.
Right, so when you're on this side, you know that it's time to converse about business. But now we have a cooperative for quail farmers, and I know you're wondering, no, we're not going to have a bank for quail farmers, not anytime soon. But talking about business today, we're here to just introduce you to a new kind of entrepreneurship away from the quails that is catching up in Nairobi. I'm talking about valet parking. And the question is, did you even know that valet parking exists in this city? To help me understand, and a gentleman who's ventured into this is Dixon Ngunjiri. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Valet parking.
Yes.
Just break it down for us first. What does that entail?
Thank you, Bonnie. I'll just briefly, valet parking is a service that we provide people who come to an event, let me just layman's language, and they want to be given the facilities for a car to be parked without them worrying about where it's going, or just that whole drama of looking for parking. You know how Kenya it is. So we try take that whole experience, create an experience around the valet parking. By the point you're coming to this place, we are doing the valet parking. We take the car to a secure location, and by the time you are leaving, through a process that we have a well orchestrated, you come back and you find your car is there, and you drive home safely without worrying about
Dixon,
where the car is.
The only places I've seen valet parking in Kenya are the 5-star hotels.
Yes.
Talking the Lycos, the Hiltons of the day. Is this a preference to only them?
No,
Can I have valet parking at my local club?
What has happened with this business, and it's happened the last 6 months, it's really grown. We have been getting a lot of calls of people asking us to come and actually valet for events especially. Let me give you a good, you go to a wedding, you park miles away. You'd like to, you have your shoes cleaned up, you know, shine them and everything. We go through all that, walking down the road, and you find your shoes are a bit dirty. So people, ladies also are dressed up in high heels, Right. And the one that whole, and again, it's also a luxury. It's a luxury thing.
So
that
it is catching on beyond.
It's luxury, but it's beyond luxury. It's also like we are giving them quality.
How do you get people to trust you with their cars?
We have, number one, we make sure that the people we hire are well, we do a background check. But I think more so than anything else, it's more the word of mouth kind of thing.
Right.
And we make sure that the people we get are people who have experience of 10 years plus in this industry of driving, number one. Maybe tour drivers who have even experience of handling like that kind of clientele.
Right.
But more so, they are trusted, not to, you know, their hands are sticky fingers, as we say. They feel that they are confident. If you take the car somewhere, they park it. So
you get everything intact.
Yes.
What sort of insurances do you have from a business standpoint? Because I'd easily come and say, hey, I left my iPad or my computer. It's not in my car, or my car got scratched.
Yes.
What sort of insurances and how does that work?
The insurance policies that we take are, number one, we have to get insurance policy at the garage that we park, because mostly we outsource the garages that we normally park this, because as you know, let's say you go to an event, you'd have to talk to someone to use that. Number one, we get insurance for that. The second insurance is the contractor insurance, which if we have in a contract, we have to cover that contract and make sure that by the time you're coming to get your car, all the elements that were there, if there's anything that's wrong, we cover it. And the third, of course, is the workers' compensation that we cover. Make sure all our workers are covered. So if anything happens in the possession of somebody else's car, that's covered too.
Parking fees have gone to 300 as of yesterday. Nairobi is congested. Even right now, if you're driving to a meeting, it will take you about 20 minutes to secure parking. That kind of challenge, how do you go about it?
I think the more we find out, you know, like we're trying to find, as I said, we outsource parking areas. Like if we find areas, we're encouraging people to actually, as they're building buildings, as we go on, make sure that we also we also build parking lots to go with that, underground parking lots. But that won't change. As you know, Kenya, the planning is normally very bad. But as we go on, I think this will be a necessity more than it will be a need more than, because people find it so hard looking for parking before you get to anywhere. So you're already late for a meeting, number one, or number two, you're going for an event, you really want to get there looking the way you want and also get a parking space. That
Dixon, do you have to be attached to a big hotel to operate in this business? How do you operate, for example?
I get calls. I get a lot of calls, maybe number one, from embassies that do events. That's how we started. But now events, let me give you a good example. If you're going to Carnival and you really want to park in that area, that's on the other side. And you wanted to actually have your car, you know, the only thing is that they have few parkings on that side near the entrance. So we'd actually get a call, and one thing we'd do is actually do a recce of the place, see how we'll be able to park your car in a safe area, and then would quote you, and we normally do an hourly quote per driver or something like that.
How is the payment done? Do you, after the event, I mean, how does it work?
We have had situations where we have LPOs signed for us, or we have had situations where it depends on how long we have worked with you. So in a good example would be when I work with the embassies, they ideally would work out a contract basis, and any event I do them. But for now, as the business is growing, I'm trying to make sure that I encourage as many people to come and use these services, so that in the future we can create relationships around our business.
Dixon, time is up, but people, I know this is a new concept in Kenya, has been for about 6 months now in the country. People can get you on the website, and many other such services.
And one more thing I'll have to say, we also helping people that let's say, you know, Motudo has come in. If you're driving home and you don't have a driver to take you home, we have designated drivers. You call us, pick up the phone, we go to where you are, we take you home and drop you home. That's another service that's part of that.
I know someone who needs that service, but that's how we'll end this conversation. Many thanks, Dixon, for
coming. You're most welcome, Bonnie.
So valet parking, and that's what we, that's a new service in Nairobi. You can check it out. I understand it's Restaurant Week or something like that. First world problems, Edith?
First, that Tunya needs that service or knows someone who needs a driver to take them home. What sort of friends do you have, Tunya? Let's have a look at Sports, though. And, you know, he tested positive for steroids and admitted to drug use in 2012 and was slapped with a 2-year ban from athletics. Double Africa Junior champion Matthew Kisoro will, however, be completing his ban on June this year with hopes of retracing his path back from the sporting shame that swallowed him for 2 years. Lynn Washira caught up with Kisoro during his morning run in Kapsabet, and here is the story.
Matthew Kisoro fell into utter desolation when he was slapped with a 2-year suspension after he tested positive for banned steroids. That suspension coming at a time no one ever doubted Kenyan athletes silenced everyone.
A lot of stress, whatever, but I've tried my best to overcome them. I reached a point where I could find myself lonely. I was almost losing up in my career of running.
He captured deadlines in local and international media and landed into endless trouble with his fellow athletes as well as Athletics Kenya after a report by German journalist Hapo Seppelt quoted him implicating other athletes for violating the World Anti-Doping Agency rule.
People thought that I said a lot about them, but in a real story, I am the same person. I like this my career, and I had got no interest of spoiling the name of Kenya.
He chooses not to go into the nitty-gritties of what landed him into trouble, saying that he was a victim of manipulation, which begs the question as to why he easily admitted to the vice.
I just wanted to accept it so that I let it go, because if I say no, these things did not happen, I don't know how it happened, it could have disturbed me a lot. But
after spending 2 years in the cold, the 25-year-old was abandoned by his Italian coach and manager, as well as having to return over 50 million shillings in prize money, is slowly picking up the pieces.
I have forgiven those who did to me like that, and I have let it go. I'm focusing now for the future.
He has since gone back to training in a self-coached group based in Kapsabet as he plans to attempt a world record time in the half marathon. But is he ready for the stigma that could come with his return?
For these 2 years that I've been out for competition, I've really tried to figure out where I went wrong, what to change, and I want to go for better now.
Matthew Kisoro is all aware that his return to the sport will not be met by open arms. He, however, believes that the love he has for the sport is enough to help him conquer all the fears he has. Lynn Washira, KTN in Kapsabet.
You look like
seconds because you're supposed to be brief, so you go first.
Okay. Did you know drying your hands with a paper towel will reduce the bacterial count from between 45 to 60%? However, if you use a hand dryer, then you will increase the bacteria on your hands by up to 255%. Why, you ask? Because it blows out bacteria that are already living there in a conveniently warm place.
Right.
So the bacteria are just there and you're like, oh, welcome bacteria. 255%.
Good Lord. My name is Bonitunya. I will see you again for business.
My name is Edith Kimani. Let's meet again tomorrow, God willing. Have a good afternoon.